Hey everybody, welcome back to Blue Collar Gold. I'm starting my podcast. No, welcome to SureFire Live. I have been in meeting hell today. It's been death by meetings today. It's been a great day, but just meeting after meeting, and my brain is a little scrambled. So forgive me. I'm looking at my eyes, a little bloodshot. So good thing I got my smoothie and I got some water, so we're ready to go. Tonight, I've got a new friend of mine, new guy I just met a couple weeks ago at the United Buyers Group show. David Rettinger is going to join us today. And the reason I asked him to join the show was because a lot of the things he was doing was very innovative, inspiring for me, seeing what he is doing and how he's building his second generation company with technology and just some really neat things that I hadn't seen before. So I wanted him to ask him to come on and talk about that. Today we were, we had a guy on here talking about traction, the EOS system a while ago. And we finally went through, I did it years ago, read the book like 2012. I saw it at Lindemann University. We went down the traction path and did our level 10 meetings and all the things. And then we did it for a while, and then we stopped doing it. Now we're getting ready to do it all over again. And I will talk about that a little bit, what we went through today. Got a couple early comments. How do we set up SureFire to trade new sweeps? Great question. I'm going to talk about that, and maybe Dave will talk about that too, because he's in the process of doing that. And then Cody Whitwood says, chimney time, folks. Let's do it. That's right. Always loved Cody. Congratulations, Cody, on some of the new things you're doing in the industry and some of the committees you're joining and heading up. And thank you for that, Cody. There's a couple young guys in the industry starting to hand off the baton. And he was on a meeting with a bunch of us the other day. And I know he was probably going, wow, this is the group of people that do stuff. And he's included in that conversation. So I'm sure that was an eye-opening experience of, more board meetings. And board meetings committee meetings can be pretty boring, but they also get a lot done. It's how we move the industry forward. Bart Ogden, hey, Bart, says, hey, hello from Kansas. Love Bart Ogden. Thank you to Bart. He was on that call for committees. He's headed up some committees for CSIA. And some of us are old guys are about to rotate off. Got a final year, but, this is our farewell tour. And loved my time on the CSI board. And it's in fantastic hands moving forward. And I'm ready to move on to some other things myself. And not that it helped stop me from doing anything, but, there's a handoff period and it's all good. About today, one of the things for me too in my own business is handing that business off to the next generation of people who have been with me a while and are fully committed. And Dave's going to talk about being a second generation, so he got handed a business. I'm first generation, and I'm in the process of making sure that I build leaders in my company, making sure that I've built leadership so when I hand it off, I'm not handing off a nightmare. I've got people trained up and people ready, and they're excited about, stage 2. In my case, not necessarily going to my children, or not going to somebody, I know necessarily, but even though I'm not selling it or I'm not going anywhere, I need to hand the leadership part off so I can kind of get out of the way and watch it go to the next level. And tonight when we talk to Dave, he's going to be talking about taking it to the next level. But in this process, you must set the vision for your people. And we're a little bit slower, right now, which is always an interesting time to make your company stronger. Like if you slow down a little bit, and a lot of people, we just finished up a mixed meeting, a lot of people were down, 10, 20%. Some people are not down at all. Some people are busier, but in general, from what I've heard, the industry's down a little bit. It's in those times when you can actually build your business the most. You can actually have time to fix things, to set new visions, to get rid of stuff that wasn't working. Because when you slow down, all of a sudden the tide goes out and you're like, uh-oh, you fix it. That in 2008 and 9 is when, the tide went out last on me, and when I, had to start the company all the way over. And, but that was the time I created the We Fix Leaky Chimneys campaign. And in 2010 is when I showed the industry, hey, this is what I created when I was getting my butt kicked and what actually worked. Well, it's not that time again, but it can be that time. And that's when you really dig back into your systems, fix them, work on them, and ideally roll them out to the industry when you prove that this worked for us. And there's a handful of guys doing that. We got Dr. Sweep, I think, from Michigan. Hey, buddy, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Mr. John White, he's one of those guys that's out there hustling too. He's been around for a while, but he's always excited to learn more, and he's a very supportive type of leader, and he's always very interested in growing the company. Mr. Chad, Mr. Author, I believe Chad Murray has written a new book for the industry, and it just came out the other day. And I'm going to actually have Chad on next week to talk about this, his entrepreneurial freedom and book. And he's been funny about having some typos, and I noticed his book had 3 E's in freedom. So it's more of like the freedom from what's it? Mel Gibson. Gosh, I'm drawing a blank. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. But anyway, Braveheart. Anyway, so with that being said, let us bring on Mr. Dave Rettinger. Hey, buddy.
Mark, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing tonight? Thank you for joining us.
I'm feeling free as can be.
Free, right? That's going to be, yeah. He said it's a Chad special editions.
I like it, man. Freedom should be stretched all the way, all the way.
Yeah, you may have hit on something, Chad, being with the typo, but yeah, so tell us about, we met a couple weeks ago, but you've been following Tim Reed, his podcast. Talk about your journey, your second generation. Tell us about Rettingers and how you got in this thing.
Thanks, man. And so I mean, my journey is definitely, I view it as just getting started in a lot of ways, even though I'm over 10 years into this thing. But I mean, I think that's a matter of perspective, right? Like you're, a pretty proven dude, right? You have, book companies. I mean, it's got to feel pretty good to be sitting in your seat, man. And,
Thank you.
You're an inspiration for sure. And, as far as that mentality of maintaining a beginner's mindset no matter how far you go in. I mean, I think that's the key, right? Is, I could sit here and say, yeah, like I'm running my parents' company and things are going well. But I mean, I really feel like, what marks my story is showing up every day with something to learn, and and I can learn it from anybody. It can be from a customer who is having a negative experience. Like the things that you dread the most are sometimes like the best things to teach you. And then at every level of the company too, man. So yeah, I'm a second generation guy. I'm definitely more on the hearth side. My parents started the company in '95. My dad was in architectural supply, recognized an opportunity in fireplaces, approached his boss with that opportunity to expand the fireplace portion of their business, and was declined. So he started his own, and I watched him build it, right from the garage. So the way our house was at home, like we lived on a hill, so the back garage actually was the basement. So and I lived later on in life, I lived in the basement, and that garage was right there. But I just remember my dad, he built mantles in that garage. He would have fireplaces stashed in that garage. He was a one-man band for a little bit. And it was super inspiring to watch. And then he grew it, one builder at a time, one architect at a time, and eventually innovated. We do custom cabinetry. We like to say that we're the concierge company in hearth, right? Yeah, we'll do the whole wall. Floor to ceiling, wall to wall, create the focal point, from, as my mom would say, inspiration to installation, or from concept to completion, right? So, So clearly, I had a pretty good opportunity here, right? Like, I wasn't trying to come in and like resurrect a dusty old machine.
Right.
Like I came in to a pretty well-oiled company, and I'm forever indebted to that because I've said this many times. I think I even heard it on an NFI uh, webinar or something that like every time I hit a home run, I was batting from third base, man. Like it had like nothing to do with
I
like
like that.
not everything to do with strength, right? So, um,
I heard a guy
yeah,
talk about like in your position. He goes, I'm taking over for my dad. Like he built the thing, right? He knows where all the studs are. He knows behind the drywall where the wiring is, where the plumbing is. I don't know that. I don't know all that, but I know the next step of the house, what to do next, or how to make the house nicer. Is that or do you know where all the skeletons are buried, and you saw the whole thing being built? Like, is that a fair assessment of where you are, or because sometimes the old guys want to go, well, that's not how we did it. This is how I put this wall in. Like, tell me about that handoff.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think that you know, I first heard that from Tim Reed. Actually, is like describing it that way. Is the first generation really knows where everything is because they built it, and I've definitely seen that. That's been a part of my experience, right? Is that I very first naively thought that I was going to come in and use like I had some experience in HR and hiring and like process optimization. I worked for a really big hotel company, and like that was where I found my first career position, and then I went on to do some software marketing and some pretty enterprise level stuff. So I was like, well, look at me, like I could definitely come in and like figure this mom and pop thing out, and then like write up some business policy, and mom and dad are going to retire, it's going to be great. No way, man. Like like you said, like it is so intricate. I mean, it's I don't even know if it's building a house as much as it's building like an apartment complex. There's so many different nooks and crannies of this
Yeah.
thing, and you're dealing with um every aspect of construction, right? I mean, and we say this to our guys when they come in to apply, like, dude, you're gonna learn how to be a roofer, a sider, a framer, a tile guy. Like, you're gonna learn all this stuff.
Yeah.
Um, a plumber, electrician, you name it.
Yeah.
And it just touches so many different industries, which I think sets our industry apart from others, which is actually a strength. But going back to like my experience with being second generation, I think once I came in with that kind of like a little bit of a strong like sense of that I'm going to change this, and quickly like kind of humbling to the fact that like, all right, before you change anything, you have to at least understand it. So there was a good like stretch of years in there where it was literally just nestling into under my mom and dad's shoulders,
Yeah.
and then and with the legacy staff, like we had really strong players that remain here with us today, some retired, um, but you know, that's like really that's my biggest recommendation. Like when I meet younger guys who are maybe like a few years behind me, like I will say your main focus right now is to run interference for your whoever you're taking this over from, whether it's your dad or your parents or a family member, or like you're the heir apparent, right? Like you said, you don't have to be in the family, but like if you're ever blessed to be in that position where you are the heir apparent, the best thing you can do is to like just stay close but run as much interference as you can, right?
Yeah.
Like tell the staff, hey, don't call dad, call me,
Yep.
because and if I can't figure it out, then I'll go to dad.
Yep.
And then you just start to get this endurance for and a pulse for like, what are these problems, what are these themes?
Yep.
And the thing is, you're separated from it enough. So for instance, you know, dad built it. Dad is like a bootstrapper, knows how to just get in there every day and like manhandle a situation, right? Not going to be the second generation guy's story. So he's so close to it that like when he's in the trenches every day dealing with these things, he can't really see the patterns like somebody
Yeah.
who's not,
That's
right?
right.
It's just like, man, I've seen this like many times over. So now you're like removed enough from it that you can say, all right, well, maybe I can influence it this way. A prime example is we had this builder who would always call us and be like, dude, I need you here. I'm insulating next week. And I would say to him, when did you call your plumber? And he was like, I don't know, like 4 weeks ago. He's been roughing it. I'm like, that's when you call us. Right.
Exactly.
And just solve that problem right there. Yeah. Never have
Set
that
up the
again.
expectation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So again,
So
I mean, that's go ahead, man.
how do you just to on that handoff? You talked about younger employees, but if you got some legacy employees, you're now the new kid, and you have some older people that really knew your dad. Talk about leading a legacy group that was already here. How do you feel like you work in that environment?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, I mentioned this too, to like Tim Reed had me on last fall, which was really fun. I mentioned that I made every legacy employee my manager. And I would actually let them hear me say that. So there was no like official, like, this is my manager, I'm going to sit down with them. But it was more like that day to day thing where like you're just kind of cutting your teeth and you're finding yourself constantly in these situations that you don't know what to do with. You just turn to the person who's next to you, who's been there for way longer than you. And you say to whoever is on the phone, I don't know the answer to that question, but I have my manager sitting right next to me. Let me just ask them real quick.
Yeah.
And just constantly reminding the people around you, like, that, hey, I'm going to need your help as much as possible. Like, you have so much more experience than me. You really built this place. And I mean, even yesterday, like, you, I've never stopped doing that. So like we have a 20+ year employee whose birthday was last week, and I just wrote on our public, like, we have a little thing on our software where it's like a Facebook wall kind of thing. And basically, I wrote to that employee, like, without you, this place would not be the same without you. And your contributions have given us all the opportunity to be here today. And just like never stop reminding the legacy staff of
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love your hitting from third base analogy. It's in, like, we're handing off CSIA to, every president hands it off. And I remember when I became president, I'm like, it's that turtle on a fence post thing. If you ever see that, there's that turtle sitting on top of a fence post picture. Well, he couldn't have got there without help. And that was always, my position. Like, man, there's been so many people that built this up. I'm handing it off. And yes, I want to make it better, but my gosh, I'm taking over something that was well. And it's an honor to have that. So I'm sure, with your, even just your personality, learning that humble, the servant leadership type of thing is probably very helpful when you come in. Say, I need all your help. I'm next up. I'm going to make it better for everybody, but I'm going to make a bunch of mistakes, while I do it. So please help me.
Plenty.
Somebody knows you. It says, Yo, Dave, but it says Facebook user. So if
Yeah.
somebody could tell me who that is, so Dave knows, that it's very thoughtful. So you're in the business, and you have developed some things that I had never seen before. And would you mind talking about your thought? Oh, it's Ben Cross.
Oh man, legend.
Yeah, legend Ben
Legend.
Cross, man. I
Yeah.
love Ben Cross. We've talked to him. Every time I
Yeah,
talk to
man.
him, I smile. He's
A
just
good
such a
dude.
solid dude in this industry. And he started a new business. He's in the metal fab business now. He's got
That's
Cross
right.
Break.
We're a
Cross Break.
customer.
You're a customer. And
Yeah,
I
they banged
love
it out. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. He's such a blessing to this industry. And Ben, I know you're busy, but you need to get out there more and talk more, because you're just a wealth of knowledge. But all right, so what are you excited about now? The baton has been handed. What are you most excited about?
Well, man, I mean, before we move on from Ben Cross, I'm going to say that, like, that man really did inspire me. Like, reached out of nowhere to let me know that they were doing some metal fab work, and I decided to take a drive out to the shop. And those, John and Ben have a super amazing team, and like just being in their room with the training and all that. I came away from that like pretty inspired to do what they have done, man. It's
Yeah,
really impressive. And like, going back to like what makes me most excited, I think it's what those guys are again years ahead of me in their journey is, recognize, and it's definitely in line with what you're doing too, Mark, is like giving people a piece of the pie, that's for
Yeah.
sure, right? Is it like compensating based on performance, um, trying to give younger employees an upward mobility path, um, and really just like creating a culture that's just totally unstoppable with developing new leaders, right?
Right.
I don't like I definitely the one thing that I've made very clear to anybody who's ever worked with us is like, I don't want to do this alone. This is just not a one man band mission.
It's too
And
big.
I can't handle that,
Yeah.
and I'm just quite frankly not interested in, you know, uh, being the king of the hill. I want to be like, the guy who's like pulling people up the hill and then they're pulling me up and it's like, just everybody's going together. So I think that that's probably like the most exciting thing is like creating opportunities for others. Um, and then
It's
also
really
like,
addictive, right? I mean, you've got,
yeah,
what'd you say, 35 people that work for you at this
that's
point?
right. Yeah,
And it becomes addictive to create opportunities to hand off when they want you to do that. And that's I think you feel you have that same feeling about it.
absolutely. So like, a good story, and this is just because it goes to any position. It doesn't have to just be a revenue generator like a tech in the field or installer. Like, I have a father son duo who works for us, and they're awesome. The dad's doing the purchasing and running the crews, and the son does all of our accounts receivable. But when he first came into us, I was like, maybe he's going to be here for a little bit. Who knows? Like, I had just become a new dad. It was like middle of COVID, so but to see that guy like literally go from just like doing some paperwork and helping us out to literally like he is our comptroller, like who makes sure that all of our inventory is tight for the vent pipe and components used. He's like the guy calling to make the collections, and he like takes his job so seriously. And then I get a photo this week that he just bought his first brand new pickup truck, and his dad sends me that photo. I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. Like,
Yes.
this is the kind of company that
Yep.
we are. And now I get to sit in like where my dad see. I'm sure he had that feeling so many times in his career, looking back when it was just him in the garage,
Yep.
then to where he starts pulling other people up with him. And now to be able to do that at the second wave or the whatever wave we're in. The other thing that's like, really exciting about you know, like again, pulling others up is that you don't know. I think you said it in your keynote last week. I was hearing you speak down in San Antonio. I was like, the leaders are not always the people who like are beating their chests.
Mm-mm.
They're just not.
Mm-mm.
So like I love just kind of keeping a pulse on like who's out there to
A lot of them are the quiet guys or quiet women, not saying much, but they get their stuff done. They don't raise their hand because they know to do it, they got to do a lot more work. And if they get handed the baton, they'll do it. And I always like watching for those guys.
That's
Or
exactly
ladies.
right. That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
Well, that kind of flows into your process of bringing people in and bringing them up. And can you talk about how you've developed that? I'd never seen somebody do what you do with trade schools and how you have it brought into your system. And then after that, let's talk about that system that you are associated with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that this goes back to some of the HR onboarding experience that I had in the past. That like, not everybody's going to be like, like sitting up at night thinking about this sort of stuff.
Mhm.
But one thing I'll mention is that um, you know in the process of we adopted an ERP called Striven, and we ended up actually pioneering what ended up turning into what's called the Hearth edition of Striven. And it's basically in that process, the company who developed that ERP when we were going through our implementation, asked me a very challenging question, and it was, what are your recruiting resources or your recruiting sources rather? And I said, well, what do you mean by that? Well, you know, have you identified where your applicants are coming from? And I'm like, we put something on Craigslist or Facebook, or, one time we invested in Indeed. Like, is that what you're talking about? They're like, yeah, but like a little bit more intentional than that. And It really made me start thinking about this. And it's kind of like when you start to think of a go-to-market strategy is like, who is your customer? Well, it's somebody who owns a house, right? Or it's somebody who does this. It made me start thinking about, well, who is my candidate? And well, it's somebody who likes to work hard and it's somebody who takes pride in what they're doing. All right, well then where are those people? And then you start thinking about, well, I think that they're walking into this grocery store right here. So rather than me putting like an ad out for Rettinger fireplace everybody knows about us, how would I put like these two pictures of our best employees giving a testimonial of how much they love working here?
Right.
And then making it really easy for people who see that sign to apply by just texting a phone number.
Right.
And now you start just collecting, constantly getting applicants coming in. And then, we just put everyone thinks, okay, let's advertise that we're moving. Well, I'd rather not advertise that we're moving because people will find us regardless. I'd rather advertise that we're hiring at our new location. And it's just constantly like getting this visibility into the candidates. And then to answer what you were saying about the trade school is like, I'm now I'm not really competing, against like my competitor for people. Like I'm competing against HVAC companies
That's
and
right.
electricians and plumbers and all these other trades companies. Like I'm like people think, oh man, I gotta go find this guy with fireplace installation experience. I'm like, good luck. It's just like it's just not really like what you're after. So
Yeah.
it's finding people. So yeah, we ended up reaching out to some trade schools. Some people who are literally in a paid program to like become like an auto mechanic or could become an HVAC guy, or so we went into these schools and we put a presentation together that literally was selling the hearth industry as a great niche alternative to being amongst the many in these other big industries.
Right.
So long and short, we generated a lot of interest there. We were able to make some really great hires. We're still new in this journey. I mean, we started this in January of 22, so just over a year, but we've had some really good hires, and we just started using SureFire to really like provide almost like a little incubator for these guys to like be the masters of their own destiny. We have this awesome female technician who is just like, she's got like a social media presence, and she's just really like a great personality. She's the exact person that we want representing us. And
I
it's like
love that.
all these people that we never would have existed or known existed if we didn't go into that tech school a few times and make this presentation.
I do have to say one thing. You talk about SureFire, and Dave was on a call earlier with partners, and he was talking to Jim Brewer. And Dave's the only person to ever, Alan Rush pointed this out. He said, Dave's the only person to ever ask Jim Brewer to go into more detail on when he's talking about gas ignition systems and remote controls. Like he's like,
Yeah.
I need more detail. And of course, Jim lit up. Of course, well, I got more detail here, more detail there.
Yeah.
It was so funny. So
That was great.
well, so and I know here's somebody else said, hey Dave, if you can tell us who you are so Dave knows who it is, it'd be great. And then says, I love seeing a local fireplace company on SureFire. Oh, okay. So somebody's local. Dave's in the Philadelphia area, correct?
Yeah, we're in South Jersey, just outside of Philly.
Oh, South Jersey, right.
Yeah.
So do you have the ability? I know you looked at did you get a chance to edit that PDF?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I think you have a button down there that says share, and then you got to find it on if you can see that.
Yeah,
but
I see that present button. Sure.
Yeah. So Dave had one of the things I talked about at UBG was when Kyle.
Love Kyle. Yeah. Great guy, man.
Yeah. He's all in too.
Dude, he was the one who told me about your book.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Kyle. So you had a system that I was talking about where when you bring people on, it used to be, hey, in the chimney sweep side, get to be a chimney sweep, that's pretty much the end of the journey unless you're the owner, or maybe if I build it up, you've got something to do. Hearth, I'm sure there wasn't a lot of journey. Like, you're going to be an installer for us, and maybe you get to manage a couple of guys. Like, but you set up a system, like an apprenticeship program, that is really detailed as to what they're going to learn. And so, do you have a way? Do I have to
Yeah,
do something
I'll
like
hit
that?
that present and
Yeah,
share
do it.
screen.
Perfect.
Says I got 2 monitors. Let's see. Yeah, we'll do entire screen for this one. Cool. Yeah. So I think we're on.
Yeah, here you
Can you
are.
see my screen? All right.
Yep, got it. Yep,
All
I'm
right.
going to make. Yep.
Yeah, let me actually jump you up here so I can still see you if you make any goofy faces. All right.
Yep.
Cool. So yeah, I mean, this is basically the PowerPoint deck that we put together for the tech schools to go in and pitch our industry against some other major industries. So to walk you through, um, we just went over our company and a little bit about like our presence in the market. And then we went about the hearth industry itself, and trying to tie together some of the pieces that make us comparable to HVAC, electrical, plumbing.
I love
Um,
that you literally, compared to HVAC, uses similar mechanical draft system and controls. Comparable to plumbing, uses gas piping and combustion system. That's very intuitive to think. If you're interested in this, you might be interested in that, and you're going to stand out and not be one of the many. You'll be one of the few.
Exactly. Yeah. It's and when you see the job posting that we have on our website, it is basically like join an exciting industry, yeah, stand out from the pack, and this is and be really be the master of your own destination in this niche spot. So um yeah, so yeah, and the one thing I like to add to at the end is like design feature of the home is like you're no longer, yeah, you're gonna be working some attics and some crawl spaces and some roofs, but like you're also like bringing this like homeowners are gonna be very excited to see what you're about to do in their house, right? Especially when it comes to like if it's the center focal point of their living room or their family room, and you're about to resurrect it in the case of a chimney sweep, or you're about to completely rip and replace it in the case of chimney sweep or hearth guy, like again, this is exciting. Like people are, this isn't just, how many people get excited to replace their handler or their HVAC system?
Yeah.
I mean, like no one's like, I can't wait to spend that money. But this is like, I've been planning this, we've been thinking about this, and this is a great idea. So I like to throw that in there. And then, the robust products. So let's see what else. So then we tell them a little bit about the apprentice program, how we're going to pay you to get smart. Some of the, industry certs that we provide, and
Yeah.
some database that we know about, career advancement. And I think you mentioned this, down in San Antonio last week, man, is like, that like everyone wants to complain about our generation doesn't want to work, like the younger generations don't want to work. Totally not true. They want purpose, and they want upward mobility. Like they want to
Yeah.
be shown the way, like how do I get your job, right?
That's right.
So yeah, we basically talk about, what is the purpose? To become the next generation of leaders in the field of hearth service and installation through continuous education and field experience. I mean, that is the purpose of this program. It's the purpose of you joining. You should want to become the next leader,
Right.
right? So, and then we set some expectations. One thing in HR is like first 90 days is just managing expectations between employer and employee. And
I like that you say that they have to maintain their training journal to log efforts and lessons. Like, you're already handing that to them. This is your journal. You
yeah,
must keep up with it. Yeah.
we expect them to do that, and if like we don't continue to manage to that, and that's where these so we have the helpful resources. We tell them who's going to be training them, showing the pictures of guys with their info.
And
um
just
so-
so they know, he took them out, but there was details about each of those guys that, you don't put on video, but like,
right.
who's in charge, what do they do, what's their phone number, here's a guy you need to, here's your mentors. I love this. I have never done this, and actually haven't seen it. I really dig that.
Cool, man. Yeah, I mean, again try to create like and the other thing too is it makes these guys feel pretty damn important.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're like, these guys are, I had a conversation with John this morning and I was just like, thank you for what you're doing to like, because I mean, who knows when he's probably gonna, retiring within some years, right? And it's like, just thank you for. I think you said that this is one of the things with Jim Brewers. Like, he didn't want to like leave the industry without like, I got to give this gift,
Yeah.
right? So now
Yeah.
we're like instilling these guys who built the company with like, you can give this gift to the next generation so that they know what they're doing and that this place goes on. Um, and it's just like, again, what we're talking about expectations is basically first 30, week 1 through 4. And then we got this is like a formal 1 month check in where we start coming up with a game plan. Are you going into service? Are you going into installation? What kind of certification track are we on? Some people are like, I want to take the test within, 6 to 12 months. Other people, I got a guy who's been with us for over 2 years who just is sitting for the exam for the first time.
Yep.
So everybody's at a different pace.
Yep.
And then path forward. We talk to try to help them start tying the themes together, right? Is these are the job types that you're really kind of participating in, so that you're not just showing up and sitting in the truck and carrying a unit in. Like, you should be able to tell me, what did you do today, what manufacturer did you put in, what kind of venting did it use. Like, you should be able to log this stuff and tell us. And then 90 days, 3 to 6 months, like what we kind of expect them to do in terms of numbers, right? Like, we estimate that in the first 6 months you might do like 187 installs, right? Like, that's the kind of stuff that, like, we like to put out there for guys, so
I
it's
like
like,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's quantifiable, right? And that they can continue to log their efforts. So then, yeah, I mean, these are the minimums that you have to have had at least 1,800 field hours, 20 evergreen sessions. So we have a 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. every Monday morning. We sit and we do book works through SureFire and HPBEF.
So
So
that's what you call evergreen.
evergreen, yeah. So I got that concept from somebody else. It's pretty sweet. Where it's just like, no matter what, we're here, man. Like, it'll always be here. It's just, you just come back. Like, you miss a week, we're back here next week.
I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the evergreen. And then, yeah, we got some like other, here's the training matrices, and so, like, guys could sign off on, like, yeah, I want, like, all 3 of our lead guys said that you could do this kind of work, right? And
Is
then
that all? You said you keep up with your logs. Is that all digital? I'm sure it's not.
oh, yeah, yeah. And again, like, like I said, we're still early in this. It's like, a work in progress for
Sure.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we try to do our best with logging this stuff. And the other thing, using Striven, we can run reports to see, like, all right, how many rough installations has so and so been on,
Yeah.
so that obviously it's like a little bit minutia, but it's something that we can run those reports on. And then we show them the standard issue equipment, some career. So this is what you were talking about, is they want a path, right? So, like, you can go from being junior tech, then they're lead installer, senior, and then when you get your MHP, you're pretty much like, you can start managing people, training people, all that kind of stuff. So,
Speaking of that, Cody
yeah,
Whitwood just got his MHP. Congratulations. He was early on
well
tonight.
done.
Congratulations to him.
Awesome. Very exciting. Yeah. So, and this is what I mentioned, that ad outside of the grocery store. Like, this is what it is, man. Is like, we show these guys, basically telling their testimony about working here,
Yeah.
and how it's a great spot. So, and then we have the text to apply. Like I said, you got to make it easy. So, have some sort of number to text. And then to go to this link, actually, it'd probably be easier if I jump over into Striven and then show you. Here's our careers page. Like, that link will jump you into this. You click apply, and it brings you right into a Striven form where it dumps it into the manager's dashboard where you got a new application. And then this is the other part where we're just kind of selling them on the industry here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's
And,
that's our play.
and then it was neat. It dumps it into the manager's platform, and then the manager can look up and see how many new applicants you have. Like, you open it up and you could see their resume, and you had a really just great flow of how to come work for you. And that was, I love what you've built there.
Cool, man. Yeah, I appreciate that.
So there's a question for you. Chad asks, do you find the trade school prospects are at all disinterested in more schooling or training?
Man, that's a great question. So, like, from my experience, we've hired, I think, 3 people, like, from who are literally in the middle of their program at the tech school, and we've encouraged all of them to, like, finish your schooling, don't leave. But I will say that, like, most of them kind of see what we have to offer, and they're like, all right, I'm no longer going to pursue this, like, electrical license thing, or, like, they'll actually just, like, come and work for us, and it's like, oh, this is a better opportunity for me. So I don't think that the trade schools have picked up on that yet. But, like,
Like, every time they present, we lose students.
exactly, like, I don't think they've picked up on that. But, like, I mean, that's, so and then also disinterested in additional schooling and training. Like, man, if that's them, then, like, they're just not a good fit, right? Is that, uh they should be constant learners, and, like, always,
Yeah.
wanting to, like, to know that, like, just because you have this, like, training at this school doesn't mean that you can necessarily go out and do it. It's just like saying, like, if you were to go through and get your CSIA or your NFI, like, doesn't mean you really know how to go do it.
You know,
Yeah.
right, it doesn't. And
Right.
to your point, the younger generation is more likely to be the constant learners. My older generation, a lot of times those guys they're not as hungry to learn a lot of times as these younger people are. And with you providing this for them, that kind of satisfy, and like you said, if they're not really they don't want to constantly learn, they're probably not a good fit for your system, especially. It's learning all the time, evergreen, constant. That's how we do it. And you set that expectation from the jump.
Yeah, exactly, man. And the other thing, like, I think SureFire does a good job of this, is the making it accessible digitally
Yeah.
is the key,
Yeah.
and making it trackable is, yeah, when you're able to literally jump on your phone or jump on your tablet and start doing some work. I truly believe that the young guys just jump on it because it's just second nature to them, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good. That's really good stuff. So we got about 18 more minutes. I know you got dinner waiting on you, and so do I. Talk about some challenges that you face, that you face, and that like, what do you see? What's a headwind for you, or your biggest challenge in doing what you're doing?
So I would say the number one that comes to mind is this type of management probably isn't best suited for an owner.
Mm.
It's probably better suited for, like a crew manager, or, like, I should say, like an operations manager or somebody like that. Because, and I asked this question at your talk, is that, do you believe that, the person who is the administrator of SureFire needs to know their way around chimneys and fireplaces? And I loved your answer of no, because I'm like, man, I don't know anybody who's, like, willing to, like, make sure these guys do all this stuff, who also knows all this other stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that that's been my biggest challenge, is, like, you know, obviously, like, you know, we all have these lofty goals, and, like, I'm a big proponent of, like, one hill per team, meaning, like, if there's one problem in the installation team, like, or I should, we all have, things that you could, improve on, right? Or,
Sure.
but, things are you can't go after everything at once.
Yeah.
It's very whimsical, and it's not productive. So I'm a big believer in, like, one hill per team. So, like, I would say, me as an owner, to try to manage, like, the apprenticeship program and to do all the other stuff that's going on has definitely been a headwind.
Yeah.
And I met with Brianna yesterday, from SureFire, to try and pass that off to our installation manager, to say,
Yeah.
like, all right, Brian, like, this is yours now.
Yep.
And here's the tools to do it. So, I mean,
I think, to your point, we always recommend having a team admin lead this. this process, this next learning process. If the owner tries to take it on, you'll be frustrated, wasting your money. You need somebody that this is their hill. I love that acronym or that term for that. So when you hand this off, what's the expectation when you're going to hand this off?
So, the expectation that I set for the guy I'm handing it to is that, hey man, this thing's going to make your life easier, because if there's one thing that is going to bail you out next busy season, it's having another truck.
Yeah,
And if there's one thing that's going to help us meet our goals, it's having another truck.
yeah,
Like, you can't sell it if you can't deliver it. And I
yeah,
loved your answer to Tim Reed, is that sales is a game of speed.
yeah.
It's,
It is.
man,
Yeah,
like, you lose that momentum, it's over.
yeah,
Like, yeah, I truly, yeah. So yeah, that's kind of my expectation, is that, to keep people engaged, like tying their like personal goals in their life to their professional goals is like a very like powerful thing. It's like, dude, if you're gonna like, we're gonna meet our revenue goals and we're all gonna share in this prosperity, we still have to like find the path there. And this is a path, right? Like, SureFire is a way that you can add another tech, and track these guys. So
I think that's like, to me, that's like next level leadership. What you just said, like meshing the two instead of, hey, this is a job, get used to it. I hired you to do the job, or I didn't need help doing it. Like there's that old school kind of thing that can happen. But the next level is the travel together. Here's your goal. Here's what we need as a company. Let's put these together. You're probably gonna have to push them up a little bit. They're gonna have to, hold their ground on certain things so you can get there together. And Bart said, this is the way. Like, you're the guide. You're saying, here's how you succeed in here, and I want you to succeed. It's good for your heart. So you said something that was interesting on our earlier meeting. You said, we're getting ready to sweep our first chimney. So a lot of these guys here would think that's funny because that's what we do. Talk about your journey into that and why you see that as an opportunity.
dude, yeah, like, so I mentioned to you, like, we're the concierge, like, company. Like, we just like to handle it all for you, right? I find that, like, we rely on some really good sweeps. We give out a lot of sweeps to people, and if there's one thing that I have learned from the chimney sweep industry, and talks with Ben and John Cross, and with you and some other guys, I'm just Kyle, right here, like, he's sat in my office together. We've had dinner and broken bread, man. If there's one thing that I've learned about this industry, that you guys are all about coopetition,
Yeah, for sure.
and helping one another, and how there's absolutely enough to go around. Like, nobody can do it all. So I just love that everyone is so like willing to help and share, and be like, play to each other's strengths.
Yeah.
And there's one thing I've like kind of taken on as like a real like hangs over me every day, as like the axe that could eventually fall, is that, like, I really want to be the company that the community needs us to be. Is that, like, you call here, and if we're like, you call here, or try this, it's like, I don't want to be that company, man. You call the hotel concierge, they have an answer for you.
Oh, I like
Yeah,
that. I
yeah,
want to say that again. I want to be the company that the community needs us to be.
that's it, man.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like that because it's easy to go, yeah, we don't do that. We do this, but we don't do that. You're trying to make sure you've got the answers. You can take care of the customers. And I've always said too that, one of our advantages is we say yes. Yeah, we can do that. Like, I think that's a market advantage. I think when people start going, no, you have to call them to do that, or no, we just specialize right here. I understand the reason for specialization, but I also understand the market advantage of saying yes. And you're the concierge. You say yes. You're going to figure that thing out. Try to do it if at all possible, or hand off to make sure the customer is taken care of. And I really like that quote. A couple more questions. Chad says, with the all-in partnership team mentality for scaling, what is your process for breakdowns and accountability? That's a good one.
That is a good question. So breakdowns and accountability, and like I'll make sure I like answer this correctly is, like making sure that people aren't like pointing fingers at one another, or maybe you know like having people own their mistakes, or just making sure that it's still a team and not like, yeah, so and so is supposed to do this. I mean, my answer to that is a couple things. We have first off, like, these are teachable moments, right? Like, we had just this happen just yesterday where a dude, like, literally we had him like, laser focused on some showroom stuff, and he totally missed a startup that was scheduled in the afternoon. And there was this whole like, oh, I told so and so, and like so and so is like one of our, like, managers. So, and he's like, dude, like, no, like, this didn't happen. So that I said to the guys, I was like, look, this is a teachable moment. Get in front of this dude and explain to him that, like, we all make mistakes, we all forget stuff. He's too young to like be letting this habit stick of like saying like, oh, well, maybe this or that. It's like, dude, there's like, the truth will set you free, man. Long
Freedom.
free. So like, so there's the like focus, like accountability for me is teachable. I mean, there's certainly the integrity factor, right? Like, you just try to look for that in people. And then the other thing is, I do try to rely on technology for a lot of things. So we have a system where when things do not, like, first off, like, our system, there's visibility across every touch point between where a job is from lead to invoice. We have, you can see audit logs of who viewed it, what they did to it. Like, there's utmost, like, digital accountability of things, but we also have it where if something is not completed that day, there's an automated message that goes out, like, across to anybody who's involved in that job, that comes from me, automatic, in the morning, that says, looks like this didn't get completed. Let's make sure that the proper things are in motion so that the customer's not hanging.
Yeah.
So there is that aspect of, like, there's the recognizing the opportunities to teach, and then there's, putting systems in place to create the airlock.
Yeah. So I like that. Looks like this might be Kyle's ripping on you maybe a little bit. Snap lock covers for the fireplace, and make sure you have your own filter in the vac, Dave.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Oh my God. I think that's still got to be Kyle, because yeah, we've shared some misery on those stories. Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, so let me see here. My screen just went crazy on me. Let me see if I can get this to work right. So, yeah, he said, yeah, it's me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to put this in the link. This is this in the comments if you guys are watching. This is a link that he shared with me on a YouTube video on the Striven software system. Can you talk about that as we close out the show? What's your involvement with that? How does it help people? Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we reached the point in our journey where we really needed an all-in-one package. So, we were using an accounting system, we were using a job documentation system for installation reports and service reports. We were using Outlook for scheduling. We were using this other thing that text customers, and like everything was all like scattered. Striven was the all-in-one. So, like, if anybody's ever heard of NetSuite, that's what, like, massive companies with crazy budgets use. We are not a massive company, and we do have a limited budget. So Striven gives us the NetSuite vibe at like a very reasonable, like, comparable to some really affordable systems, price. So the Hearth edition is basically like the thousands of hours of customizations that I build into it, month
You
over
were
month.
like a
Yeah.
developer for them, or
Yeah.
they came to you and said, "Hey, we don't have this piece of the pie," and you worked to develop that for them.
Essentially, like, they recognize that, like, field service companies are not necessarily all going to have, people that are willing to put in the effort to customize it to the level that's needed in order to adopt it quickly.
Right.
And that was me. And then obviously, like, the thing just keeps getting better, right? So and it's also a great feedback loop, right? As companies start to adopt it, they're doing it this way, we're doing it that way, and the thing
Right.
just grows into something because it's a customizable system. You can literally take the Hearth Edition and get, like, 3 years worth of work that I've put into it right at day one. But, like, you get in there and you start tweaking it and messing around with it. It's something that's so simple to use and start, like, learning. If you have some sense of, it's not a, like, no brainer, right? Like, even if you were to develop Service Titan, I mean, that takes work, man. But once you get it dialed, like,
Yeah.
anybody will tell you, man, that was worth that work. And
Right.
I feel like that's what we have with Striven, and we're trying to make it more and more accessible to those who want to do, like, an all-in-one system where their accounting, field services, installation, scheduling, and purchasing is in one place.
How long have you been using that system or been working with them?
We're in our third year.
Third year.
Yeah.
Right. And so you know what I lost? I was looking through my banners that I created for you. I lost your email banner that I wanted to. If people want to have more information, give me your email one more time. And I'll put it
Oh,
across.
sure. Yeah. It's David
Huh?
at rettingerfireplace.com.
Fireplace.com. I think I got that right. Add banner. Is that right?
Yeah, that looks good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're watching and you're interested in what Dave is using for his company, and I've looked at it, it's so impressive. I've only seen a little part of it, and it was very impressive. So,
Yeah.
man, you've been a great guest.
Dude, thanks, man.
Yeah,
And
and
dude, Bart asked a question about mobile. So basically, like, it's a it's a browser-based system.
yeah.
So what you view in your browser on your desktop gets scaled down to what you view on your tablet, and then that gets scaled down to what you view on mobile. So it's a web application, right? So it's like just like going to a website.
Mhm.
You have all the same functionality now. Certainly certain things are not as easy to use, and because it's browser based, and I think that this is similar to or because it's web based, similar to Service Titan. Like, if you're in a bad service area, like, it doesn't work that great. Like,
Yeah.
so there's limitations to that. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure I answered that question.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. I missed it. My screen went crazy on me. So it's Kyle, Dave. I'd love to see that program. So you
Yeah,
got
man, you text me.
yeah.
Yeah, cool.
All right, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. You've been a
Dude,
big
this
part
was
of my
fun.
day today and very helpful. I think people really learned a lot from you. I definitely did. And so I appreciate it, man. I'll close
Yeah,
out the show. Have a
it's
good
my
night.
pleasure, Mark. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah.
Take care, brother.
Man, that's man, I love what he's doing. Let me close this banner out here. I've got a crazy screen problem I got here, but oh, it didn't close out. Hide. Got it. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Dave, for joining us tonight. He's a busy guy, man. He's a hardworking guy. I mean, my gosh, he's developed a lot of stuff. Plus, ran a chimney business, and so very inspiring. And I'm really interested in getting the hearth industry to tie into the chimney industry and vice versa. And because we all can do better, we all can grow this industry, and we need to cross pollinate a lot of these things together and not be separated. And I do know that CSI side is working a lot with HPBA to do a lot more cross pollination for that, because that is really, we're stronger together and better together. With that said, next week I believe my guest is going to be Chad Freedom. I'm going to have him on here. And I think we're going to have to come to you an hour later next week, because I've got an event. We're actually filming a video for my company, and it's going to go into a little bit later because it's a certain time of day, which is a better time to film. So I'm going to get pushed back a little bit next week. And then after that next week, there's a certain group of people with SureFire that's in the SureFire Accelerator Mastermind program. And we have our annual getaway at Punta Cana in the Dominican at an all-inclusive. So we're going down there. So you'll see some stuff from us down there in that group. We probably will look for a few more members of the accelerator group coming up. And we may look at another accelerator group for the hearth industry as well. But if you're interested in that, reach out to us. And we're trying to decide what to do with that, because it's a pretty good time commitment, but it is also a really good mastermind group of people who use our system, but also want next level stuff. We have special speakers that come in. We have a special getaway, and we have just some stuff that we do with that group. So, all right, guys, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It means so much, and we will talk to you soon. See ya. Bye. Oh, last 3 comments. I missed them. Oh, freedom. Yeah. So, and Pete Schoenfeld said, great job, guys. All right, guys. Have a good night. See you. Bye.